Hey, what's going on, everybody? Timmy, aka Equiside Fiend here. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I had a 3-day weekend. Actually turned into a 4-day weekend because I called in sick today. I was not feeling good at all. I went to bed last night about 9:30, and I woke up about 12:30 with just a pounding headache, and my vision was not blurred but kind of fuzzy, and I was nauseous, and never even went back to sleep until my alarm went off, and so I was going on a couple hours of sleep, and I was laid in the bathroom on the floor in the bathroom, feeling like I was going to throw up. I didn't, but finally, after I called in sick, I finally got to sleep and um, ended up waking up a few hours later, feel better, but my head still hurts and still not fun. I hope I feel better tomorrow because I'm supposed to be back tomorrow. So I'm supposed to work Tuesday through Friday this week, so hopefully I'll be okay tomorrow. Um, Regardless, might notice a couple things different. For one, I'm rocking a mohawk. I don't know how much that shows up yet. I usually do this every year for Hallowicked. I didn't last year. I was shaving my head at that time, so I didn't do it. But usually I do. It goes right down to the back. Normally I would wait for it to be a little bit longer, but the sides were getting all scraggly, and I hate that. So I got it started. So I'm just letting the top grow. So it'll be a little more noticeable in a few weeks. But and then also. Behind me, I picked up a TV for my room. I've been planning on doing that for a while, and that's the size I wanted, was a 32-inch. And a friend of mine, excuse me, my old buddy Tyler, I've known him through like the music scene here for many years, probably like 10, 15 years. Him and his wife bought a house a little while back, and they bought TVs, for every room, and they ended up with this one. And just ended up not using it, and all they did was open it to make sure it worked and everything. They packed it back up and never did anything with it. So I bought it from for $65, and it's about $120, $130 TV. So it's not a smart TV, but I don't care because all I was planning on doing was hooking up a Chromecast to it, which I have, and then I was going to hook my PS3 up to it, just so I'd have a Blu-ray player, and as I was, it's still sitting right down here, and as I was getting ready to hook it up, I didn't have the right cables because I had moved from my ex's house, and I feel like I probably left them all over at her place, and so I was like going to go buy more, and then a cable for it, and I needed another cable to charge the controller, and then as I was shopping, I noticed that PS4 is only like $300 now, so I ended up buying a PS4 Slim, and about The Last of Us remastered game. I had that for the PS3 and I really liked it, so figured I'd pick up the remastered. It was only $20, so I don't know how much gaming I'll do on that. I'm more of an Xbox One guy, but we'll see. So it's a great system so far. I haven't had a lot of time to mess around with it, and still the menus I think are a little bit confusing, but probably just because I'm so used to the Xbox. But regardless, so yeah, got that. So I finally got a TV in my room. The TV out in the living room is mine, but I'd always get home from work after my roommate, and she'd be watching something, so I'd end up just sitting in my room watching on my phone, stuff on my phone. So nice to finally have a TV in here. So anyway, on to the topic. Being a fan of ICP and psychopathic records in general, they deal with a lot of supernatural, and horror, stories in their music, whether it be ghosts or monsters or serial killers or whatever, and so I feel like I'm naturally drawn to that kind of stuff, but I have been for many years, long before I knew who ICP was, or even if they even existed yet. I was, growing up, I was always a big fan of ghost stories, and I have a stack of books by this author, Daniel Cohen. He's geared towards teenagers, I think, but even to this day, they're still. I'll still read them. I don't have them here, unfortunately. They're at my folks, but one of them he had is the Encyclopedia of Ghosts. It was like this thick, and just a paperback, but just fascinating, full of tons of urban legends and stories that are supposedly true, and I love that stuff. I love Halloween. I always have. I love going to places that are purportedly haunted. In fact, I've got, if I can reach it right here, I've got this book. I bought this a few years ago. It's Weird Michigan, obviously you can see it's called, and it's kind of like a visitor's guide essentially to spooky places, supposedly haunted, monsters, all kinds of stuff. And there's several of them in here that are like right nearby my folks' place. So there's one called Hell's Bridge that's right 5 minutes from my folks' house. There's a supposedly haunted cemetery that's just about 5 minutes the other direction from my folks. A bunch that me and my ex went out to on the lake shore. There's a Lake Forest Cemetery has the stairway to hell and everything. It's just I love that stuff. I'm fascinated by it. I love the when if you talk to people from the area and they're like, oh yeah, I saw it. I saw that building that's haunted. I was walking by one night and there was somebody in the window and I love that. I love just finding stories and finding the legends that are attached to them and all that. And but that being said, if you watched my video on atheism, I am an atheist. I do not believe in afterlife. I do not believe in ghosts. I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in soul. I don't believe in any of that stuff. So therefore I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe that they're real. I don't believe that buildings are haunted or cemeteries are haunted, or there's the trace of somebody's energy left behind where they died tragically. I don't believe it. Now that being said, people that have seen things, I believe that they've seen something. I just believe that there is a logical explanation for it. I will admit I can't always come up with one. If somebody tells me a story, I like to think, barometric pressure caused that door to shut or whatever. I'd like to say that, but I don't always have the understanding of that. I don't have the understanding of everything that goes on with the situation that they experienced or whatever. But I do believe if I were to sit down, dig into it, research it, I think you'd find a rational explanation. But I do believe that people experience the things that they feel that they have experienced. Most of the time. I'm sure sometimes people are straight up lying, but I think the majority of the time if people say like, oh, I really believe my house is haunted by a ghost, I believe that they believe that, and I believe that they've had an experience that they attribute to that, but I feel that there's a rational explanation. But with all that, I'm still fascinated by ghost stories, by monster legends, just anything. Or like in the Detroit, they have the Lanane Roju. I don't know exactly how to say it, but it's the dwarf, the red dwarf that people see before natural catastrophes, fires, storms, all that kind of stuff. People have reportedly seen this dwarf running around Detroit, a couple days before. And, that legend is fascinating, and I believe that maybe people think they've seen it, but I believe that's not exactly the case. So I will have to admit, though, that I have had a few things happen to me that I cannot explain. And then there's another story I have that happened to my neighbor, but I was kind of witness to the end result of it all, and I have no explanations for him. So as much as I'd like to, say, science can explain it, science can, explain the whole situation, whatever, there's a rational explanation, I don't have explanations for a couple of these things that have happened to me. So since it's getting fall and it's getting close to Halloween, it's still a couple months away, but there's a few stories that I'm going to share over the course of time that I've either been witness to or actually experienced that I can't explain. So this first one that I'm going to share, it's not anything like super scary or anything, but actually none of them are really super scary, but this one is just kind of just weird. I don't know how to explain it. So this was about 2 years ago, probably coming up on 2 years ago. I think it'll be 2 years this November. A couple of my friends, Daniel and Jose, very soon after gay marriage was legalized, not right away, but within a half a year or so, they got married, and they got married at this it's a restaurant, hotel, business in Greenville, Michigan. It's about a half hour outside of Grand Rapids, half hour northeast. It's a little town. It's one of those towns where it's got kind of a decent sized downtown area with shops and stuff. There's a few traffic signals, a few businesses, but all surrounding it is houses. It's pretty old. It's been there for a long time. And this where they got married was the Winter Inn, it's called, and it is purportedly haunted. So we went, they had their ceremony, and not hear me say this very often, it was a very, very beautiful ceremony. I think marriage is fucking stupid, but if you want to do it, fine. And I think that it was a great ceremony. So afterwards, somebody asked the lady who was hosting the room that they had it like in a banquet room, that they were like, oh yeah, we saw online that this is haunted, and she's like, oh, it is, and she starts telling us these stories, that her and the head chef were one night they were arguing about something about business, and they were like pretty much yelling at each other, and said all of a sudden a stack of plates just started like one after another just started flying at the chef. The chef was a man, and the woman obviously was a female, and she said the plates started flying at him, and he had to duck and dodge and everything, and everybody was like, oh, really? And of course I'm sitting there like, no, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, no, that didn't happen, because plates don't just fly at a fucking certain person. They don't just start going one plate at a time. That doesn't fucking happen. And she said that this was only like a little while before she was telling us about it. Why is there no video proof of it? Why is there no photographic proof? Nothing. All we have is her word, and I don't believe that she's lying. I believe something happened, but that's how her mind like put it together, and she said like the microwave fell off the shelf and all this stuff, and I'm like, no, that's not what happened. It's like and even if a stack of plates did fall over, and then her mind is saying like, oh, it went flying at him, there's some explanation for that plate, stack of plates tipping over, and again, I don't have an explanation for that, because I don't know exactly what happened. All I'm hearing it was a secondhand, and like I said, I don't think she was lying. I just believe that she was remembering it differently than how it actually happened. So then she was telling us about like, there's three. It's like a 3-story building, 3 or 4 stories, and a couple of them are still used. You can stay there. It's a hotel, but it's old. I mean, this building is old as hell, and so she's like, oh, let me take you up to, let me see what rooms are open. And she's like, there's one that's like really haunted, it's haunted by the ghost of a child. And then so she comes back a minute or two later, she's like, that room's empty, let's go, I'll show you that one. So we all go up there, we're all excited. And, this is when I was still with my ex-girlfriend, and she's very, like, she believes in all that kind of stuff. She's pagan and believes in all that energy healing and Reiki and all that stuff. And ghosts, she thinks the house that we lived in was haunted and all that stuff. And so we get in there, like everybody goes walking into the room, and all these people, everybody like was like, oh my god, I can feel this crushing, energy, this weight, just like, oh my gosh, and like I'm kind of like I'm still on my way in, and I'm just like whatever. And I have to admit, I walked in there and it took a few seconds, but all of a sudden, I felt like this just like everybody was saying, this crushing weight. It felt like something sitting on my chest. And I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to admit to anybody that I might be wrong, because that's how I am. But I felt it like not even a joke. And Jose, one of the 2 guys that got married, he's the same as me. Like, doesn't believe in any of that stuff. And even he was kind of like walking in like, oh yeah, right. And I could tell this look on his face. He was kind of like, whoa, and neither one of us said anything, but I could tell he felt it too. And I stayed in there for a minute, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm just imagining this. I'm kind of like, took a few deep breaths, and it didn't stop. It was like this, it felt like 1,000 pounds just sitting on my shoulders and chest, and I literally had to kind of just like, oh, I've had enough of this, and like walk out, and I got out, walked out the door, gone. It just, nothing. Like, there was no more feeling, and everybody in there was like, oh my gosh, can you feel it? And I'm just kind of like, whatever, guys. I was like, oh my god, I just felt that too. That was insane, and I was in there for about a minute and a half, and it was the whole time, from the second you walked into that room until the second you walked out. It was this energy, just felt like it was like gravity just crushing in on you on all sides. It was just like, I've never felt anything like that in my life, and I haven't felt it since. And I have no explanation for that whatsoever. That room, the legend was that it's haunted by a child, and There was a full size bed, like an adult size bed, and then on the other side, like so you got like it's like a hotel room, so two beds next to each other, and the other bed is a child's bed though. That's like literally what it's, and it's old. I mean the beds are old, everything in there is old. They did have like flat screen TVs and stuff, but for the actual the architecture, the furniture, everything is old. It's in nice repair, but it fits like the time that the building was built, or maybe not built, but that it was turned into the hotel and all that. And the legend is like, people will get that room and they'll wake up and there'll be a spot on the child's bed where, like, it looks like somebody sat down, even though they were the only one in the room, and that one, if that is, if people say that time, and they probably absentmindedly sat there and just forgot, and then of course the room is purportedly haunted, or the building, and so it's kind of a confirmation bias. They're immediately like, "Oh no, it must have been a ghost." I didn't sit there, even if they did. But so that I feel is pretty easily explained. But that feeling of being in that room, that was I have no explanation for that whatsoever. I have no way to rationalize it. I don't. And again, maybe if I were to search, maybe it'd be like, I'm just throwing something out here. It's near some power lines, and the power lines, put energy in it. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with something, because I don't think it's supernatural, but I don't, because I don't believe in the supernatural, but I have no other explanation. So that one was pretty, like, even like for weeks afterwards, I was just dwelling on that. I'm like, what the fuck was that? That was insane. I've never felt anything like that, but. So yeah, that's pretty much it. They said the whole rest of the building's haunted, but we didn't see or experience anything else, and to the best of my knowledge, no one else did. But yeah, that room was something else, man. I had no explanation for it. So if anybody wants to look it up, it's called the Winter Inn. It's in Greenville, Michigan. GreenEneville, I think is how it's spelled. But it's a really cool building. There's a bar in the bottom of it that's just open, like a normal tavern type of thing. You can just go in and drink. So it's a neat place. I've actually been back a couple times to have a beer, because the tavern itself is really, really cozy, real neat little place. But yeah, that feeling in that room was something that I can't explain. I wish I could, but I can't. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. I have a few other stories that throughout the weeks, months, a couple months, I'll kind of space them out a little bit, kind of fill them up to around Halloween, because I'll be in Detroit for Twisted Sprite Fest, and then Hallowicked on the 30th and the 31st, obviously. But leading up to then, I got a few more stories to share. So if anybody else has any weird stories, anything they've experienced, I'd love to hear it. Video response, or in the comments or whatever. So as always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.